2. Yeah, there we go. I also messed up the lights again, so give me a second. Hi everybody, happy Wednesday. Sorry if I sound a little croaky. I'll explain a little later, but the short answer is I had to jump up and do a thing for Munity yesterday. It turned out fine. It's just that because I had to do it short notice, I came into the apartment kind of late, and then weird things happened with my sleep schedule. So I'm okay. Everything is good. I just need to. I am probably still like 70% waking up, maybe. I don't know. So, also, hi, Stubby. Um, Hi, Val. So, just like that. Too bright. So, since I was thinking about it, and I'm just like, realistically speaking, I have no major features that I want to implement for Viral Core Busters. Off the top of my head, I'm like, this is as good a time as any to live a little dangerously, and we're gonna try out dialogue with what's supposed to be the preview version of a new version of Yarn Spinner. I was like, you know what? Of all the projects to integrate it in, might as well do it in one where, we don't have a bunch of stuff going yet. So, that's the plan. We're gonna hit that up, and then things are either gonna go great or terribly. As often the case with programming. You're approaching the point at which you wake up at a time you can try staying up for 24 hours to reset your sleep schedule. Yeah, I think I will probably be back on the normal turn by the end of tonight. Because basically what happened was I got in from the thing. I had to go cover for community at a local event to go shoot Lancer off. So I did that. I made it. I'm here for the Yarn Spinners RP. Hey, Lynn. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I have no idea how it's gonna turn out, but it's gonna be great. But yeah, what's the word? But yeah, basically, literally, I got back to the apartment at like 9:45 at night, or so. I ordered Taco Bell because I was like, I'm feeling kind of weird, which means that it's probably because I ate before I went there, but I had a late night like the night before, so I ate. I made some porridge. I ate the porridge before I left, but I didn't get a chance to like have water or anything while I was there. So I got back inside the apartment and I was like feeling scrungly as hell. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna order food. I'm gonna order food, and then I ordered the food, but literally had to eat it in bed because I was just like, I'm not feeling up to like trying to sit up and do anything, and it's cold, and I'm a mess. So I sat, I ate it, I fell asleep, without getting a chance to like actually like let it digest very well, and then I wound up awake at like 2:30 in the morning, and I was like, I'm gonna just get up, walk around a little bit, maybe wash the dishes or something, and then go lie back down again. that didn't happen. So I have been awake since about like 2:30 this morning. Um, I went to go try out my advance of Friday's stream because, again, I was just like, I gotta. In this case, I was like, I need to stay up because my stomach is bothering me, which means that the food didn't digest. So I need to stay up until it's done, and then, um, I'm gonna go eat, and then I'm gonna go back to sleep. And that didn't really happen. But on the other hand, I wasn't like now I'm not tired. My eyes feel a little bit, and I probably look like a little bit like I'm like staring off into the middle distance. But when I say that I think I'm going to be able to reset, I feel like I am probably going to like hit the tail end of what I've got at the normal time that I normally do, instead of at like 6 in the morning or some nonsense. And so I'll probably actually pass out at the time I normally go to sleep anyway, and that will help like set my sleep cycle mostly back to normal. I need to actually open up the door. So yeah, I got to try out I'm a my Shiranui player in Street Fighter 6. This is what's happening now. I'm not gonna go too deep into it right now because this is not fighting game stream. This is game dev stream. But my initial impressions for the first day are that she is, because I don't have the deep sauce yet. It's not a thing where I can be like, oh yeah, she's much scarier than Terry, or as scary as she is in like King of Fighters. It's a different game. But the main thing is that, to put it very simply, her pokes are a lot stronger and her conversions are a lot less picky. And I'm not sure where her weak points lie exactly yet. But in a general sense, she is easier to handle with than Terry is. She operates a little bit more like a standard Street Fighter 6 character, because it sort of feels like either they had it planned this way in the sense that this was the general direction they were going with her kit anyway, or after having released Terry, while they were like tuning her up before release, they were able to sort of like line up things that make her feel like unique, but without putting her in the position that Terry is in, where like Terry has a pretty good all-rounders kit and has relatively good normals, but his conversions are really awkward and weird. Mai doesn't have that problem, not by like a long shot. At least not from like the immediate experience that I've had with playing her for sleep deprived o'clock Lamau. Anyway, but I'll go more into it on Friday and you'll see what I mean then. But now, today, here is time to go. We're gonna go do the yarn spinner thing. So, to sort of put this into perspective and kind of explain like the way that what yarn spinner is and what it does and why it's important. Basically, look at it like this. Yarn spinner in and of itself is a system that is used to display dialogue for video games. Currently speaking, it has official support in both Godot and Unity, as well as, I believe, Visual Studio and Rust, if I remember right. Yeah, like right now, it's in labs support, which is to say, like, beta and refinement for Godot, Unreal, and Rust. And sort of like its first citizen, so to speak, is in Unity. The thing about Yarn Spinner is that while it is somewhat like complex, right, it is also a very, very strong system for displaying dialogue. The bits of mystery game that I've showed off on stream previously, a lot of that back end for dialogue is run by Yarn Spinner. But it's also flexible enough that, for example, a thing that we're using it for in mystery game at the moment is there's a system where you can like mouse over things and press a button to read it, and the dialogue for that also comes from Yarn Spinner, right? So it's one of those things where Yarn Spinner has a bit of a learning curve, but is really, really, really powerful insofar as like how it works and what it can do. I believe it was used to like also power a lot of the dialogue in like Night in the Woods and things like that. So it's that good stuff. I just need to remember how to like download the thing. So the thing about Yarn Spinner, at least recently, is that they're currently preparing Yarn Spinner 3 for a public release. And with Yarn Spinner 3, there are a couple of like new features and things like that that are super exciting. And so I want to try them out in Viral Core Busters before considering how they may fit into like, oh yeah, we also use it in Shootlancer, I forgot. We want to sort of like put it into we want to make sure that, or at least I want to, I should say, I want to make sure that we are actively, I guess I need to probably go do it manually, that we are actively sort of like seeing what Yarn Spinner 3 itself is like before we get deep into things on that front. Mostly because like trying to like directly upgrade from 2 to 3 will probably break a couple things, so I want to like sort of see what the ground floor looks like before we start messing around with stuff. I think I need to go manually get the repository together, so I'm gonna go do that real quick. Okay, hold on. I'd probably just do it. I'm trying to figure out where the thing for the beta branch is for Godot, so I can download it. Okay, here we go. Found it. I was like, I know that there should be one that's newer than this. Yeah, I'd rather just use the release straight up. Grab this one. Add-ons. Copy this. Okay. File manager. Copy this right in there. Good. Nothing errored out there. Project settings. Plugins. Jeez. Oh. Silly me. I forgot. Okay, hold on. I gotta try to post it and restart it. Alright, let's try this again. Oh. That's why. Damn it. No, don't do that. Don't play yet. Fuck. Oops. Basically there was a thing where I was second. Godot seems to have done a silly thing. That almost did it. Okay. Let's see. Settings. Still okay. I may have to like manually build it. One second. That means that, yeah, okay, I think I can work around this. It's the best that we're currently on. Alright. Might be able to try to fix this with this thing. This one. Okay. Go projects. Copy this one. Okay. Hold on a second. Okay. Let me double check the installation instructions and see. Ah, that's why. I think I forgot to do that. So, silly me. I forgot to do this thing. I was thinking like there's probably something I forgot to do, and this is correct. I was like, I'm gonna go look at the instructions and see if there's something I'm missing. CS project inside the project guide. That's okay. So, okay, done that. Okay, that's why. I forgot to add a line to the CS project file. So now, let's try this again. Okay. Okay. This time, no red errors, only yellow warnings, which is better, because then that means that basically yellow warnings are just like, hey, these are things you should be aware of, but they're not going to break everything. All right. Okay, we're cooking. We're cooking. We've cooked. And then just got to build it one more time. So, this is why you should make a point of every now and again, even when you think like you've got it, sometimes you should just stop and go look at the instructions anyway. Because literally, I was like, why isn't it working? Why isn't it working? Why isn't it working? Because there's an edit I needed to do to one of the lines in one of the other files, and it's like, okay, that's why it didn't work. Okay, so that should actually be working now. And so now we just gotta like actually configure some other stuff for the first time. Which means I need to like look through and remind myself about how to do these things. Okay, so we're gonna make a new folder in the resources folder, and we're gonna call this like this is what's for. We're gonna create new project VCD project. Oh, tools, yarn spinner, create yarn project. Okay, I did that wrong. That's fine. So up here we're gonna do debug. This project, tools, yarn spinner, create yarn project. Here, VCB yarn project, and no loader found for that. Blah blah. Okay, good. Hey cousin, how y'all doing? Hopefully well. Good to see you. Okay, so we got the yarn project going, and now we need to do yarn script. Well, I could go grab the old one that we did, probably. Create new folder, yarn scripts. Here, so the resource files, we have the actual yarn project, which is going to hold all the stuff we need, and then yarn scripts go in on top of that to be like where the actual text is stored. So we're going to go game projects. I'm going to go dig into the Unity ones and go grab the existing ones from external program. Cool. That one is still. Okay, cool. We compile the scripts in the project. Okay, cool. And it looks like it's picked up two. It looks like it's picked up two story variables, the character name that we're using and the current speaker name, and that's good. That should be fine. Those are things that we want. But yeah, cousin, it's good to see y'all. Just got back home from Shannon this afternoon. I'd love to have a friend, and now I'm just curling up to relax. Yes. All right. Nice. Okay, so now that I've mostly fixed this, let's just build this again and clear out those errors. Okay, good. Yeah, that's fine now. Okay. So, well, that's cooking. Let me think here. Okay. Yarn script stuff. So we have the yarn script placed over there. I guess I need to actually sit down and look at what's going on with B3 now so that I can figure out what all is going on with that and what to expect. So the base language is going to be English. We're not dealing with localization CSVs yet. Okay, so now it's mostly just a question of like getting a runner up and then actually talking about the things that are different in Yarn Spinner 3 and why they are important and why they matter. Where is it? Okay, so Yarn Spinner 3. A couple of things that are basically really big about it. Now, for example, one of the major changes in Yarn Spinner 3 is that you have the ability to use something called a once statement, where the script will check to see if it's run a certain piece of content before, and if it has, it skips over it. Right? So basically, a lot of the point of like the once. So if anybody wants to like actually beat the Yarn Spinner beta 3 stuff, here is where it is. But basically, the once keyword lets you like set content that a character you only encounter once, right? Like if you're talking, you're doing yakking, you run into it one time, that's it, right? This is basically just covering specifically the changes insofar as like what's new in Yarn Spinner 3 for context. So just that anybody who's reading along is aware, is like, right, this is just stuff that's new to this. Yarn Spinner does much more than even what's listed here. Detour lets you run content from a different node and then return back to where you came from. So the nice thing about that is basically this lets you jump out of a node, and I'll explain what a node is in a minute. But the detour thing lets you jump out of a node to another one, do a bunch of talking, and then you can come back to a node that you previously kind of like came from, right? Similarly, you can do a thing where now you have line groups that basically are set up so that you can like put together a collection of lines that you want a character to say, and then have Yarn Spinner choose for you what things there are, right? So let's say that, for example, you have a guard that cycles between like 4 or 5 different barks or like single pieces of dialogue. Yarn Spinner 3, you can now basically specify, hey, these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are just like line groups that get repeated at random, right? And you can combine those with once and ifs in order to only run them either like one time or if the player has reached some other value or whatever, right? And then node groups are also the same thing, right? Similarly, as far as like other new features that are added, now Yarn Spinner has support for enums, which is something I've talked about previously. But I'll jump over here to explain. So an enum, right, which is short for enumeration. You can think of an enum as a data type. In other words, a thing that you can use to make a variable out of. Let me phrase it differently. So in the context of programming, right, if you think of a variable like a box, the data type is the shape of the box, what fits inside of it, what data can be put inside of it. So an enum or enumeration is a data type that basically, as you see, you can name the enum whatever you want, and then you store certain values inside of it as just plain text. And what happens is two things. First, you can evaluate each of the individual values as strings if you need to. So if you know, for example, that like, in this case, for example, I use it for character names so that I can do it for a bunch of neat little tricks for switching between things and all that other stuff, right? But the other thing that's nice about enums is that they also have an underlying enums also have an underlying value as integers, which means that you can use them in very direct comparisons between other enums of the same type, right? So for example, if I do, like, let me go over to one of the variables where this is like put into use. So for example, if I go into the player script, right? Over here, in the player script, this line of code, you see it says is wall jumping character is equal to player character double equals type dot quorum, right? What this basically means, because I realized I didn't comment it, so I'm going to explain this now. Set up the wall jumping character variable to true if the player character that is currently being played is quorum, right? So this is the kind of thing that it's useful for, right? Player character, right, is telling us which character this player currently is. So if this player is currently Koro, I can set is wall jumping character to true or false depending on whether or not this evaluates out to true or false. There are, for example, also, right, like with node groups, for example, I can directly do a thing where it's like if I can just keep track of what groups I put nodes into for various reasons. I can keep track of them as enums and then convert the enum names into strings to assign them to the places where they belong. A lot of the time, what I use enums for is that this kind of stuff, right? Where I can use them to evaluate certain conditions of what type of thing was I just doing, or what character is this, or whatever. Enums are a very flexible structure that basically, to summarize it the way that like Yarn Spinner 3 does, right? You can create variables whose values are constrained to a predefined list of possibilities, and an enum is useful for when you have a variable that needs to have a wider range of possible values than simply true or false, but has to be more specific than a number or a string. Or, the way I like to see it, if you know that there is a chance that you're going to typo or like have to retype the name of a particular thing a lot, and you know that it's part of a set of very similar, like, for example, of data types, like for example, character names, right? I know for a fact that like my characters, I'm going to have to evaluate as to which one I'm using in certain time periods and all that other stuff, or for certain functions of code. So I just made it into an enum so I know, right? Cool, I can just use character types as a reference for that. So for example, right? Like the example that's given in the Yarn Spinner 3 dialogue thing is like, let's say that you have food in your game, right? And you want to be able to like track. Let me change this because now we're doing like sound collection. We need music. So give me 1 second. Let me move this along to something that should be good. So one of the things that's food, right? So let's say, for example, like it says in the Yarn Spinner 3.1, you can do apple, orange, pear, right? So then you can do like my favorite food is food.apple, right? If my favorite food is food.apple, I love apples, right? And then you can set things within, you can set the value of favorite food to like whatever is within that food enum. So it's very useful for like when you know you have a very specific set of data but you need to be able to refer to it by like a nice readable name, and otherwise like need to sort of like be able to manage this other stuff. So as an example, right, a classic example of this that comes up a lot is with cards, right? So let's say you have a nice deck of playing cards, right? This is not the only way to do this, but as an example, for playing cards, right, you know that you have 4 suits, right? Clubs, spades, hearts, diamonds, right? So when you're doing the data structure for setting up a deck of cards and defining what a deck of cards is, right? You could make it a string to determine, right, which value, like you could, sorry, let me phrase it. Like let's say that you have an individual card script, right? And in that card script or card class or whatever, you're like, okay, the suit is determined by an integer. You could do that, but then you have to remember which integer stands for which value, right? Or you could just make an enum of suits, right? So you do like enum card suits and you put in diamond, spade, club, heart, right? And then in that card script, you could then go, okay, for card, any given card, its suit is determined by an enum value. And then you can just do like, it's just a lot easier to read and maintain. So you don't always have to use enums for these sorts of things, but they're very useful for when you have like a very specific sort of like set of data, like the Yarn Spinner doc said, that's more specific than using like a number or something where you could use a number or a string, but the possibility of like you having to remember what string you used and exactly how you spelled it or what other value and what you used. It's like, woof. Similarly, smart variables now, right? Basically speaking, a smart variable is basically a special type of variable in Yarn Spinner that determines its value based on other criteria that you've met. So like the example that they give here is if the player can, like the variable for player can afford pie should be determined based on whether or not the player's money is greater than 10, right? So now it is easier, for example, in Yarn Spinner to get like derived values where it's like, right, you should only be able to do this thing based on if this condition is met. A lot easier to do now, right? And then the other thing that is like relatively relevant to like actual function related stuff now is something called a shadow line, where you can reuse the same line in multiple places without having to like reuse it a bunch of times. You basically just flag one line as the thing that you want to reuse with a hashtag, and then you can mark any spot where it needs to be reused again with a different hashtag, and it works fine. So yeah, Yarn Spinner 3 brings all of that on top of the functionality that Yarn Spinner already had, which is really sick, right? So are we going to be making use of all of that right away? No, probably not. But we can just like get a couple things lined up and start sort of experimenting with how Yarn Spinner works. And there are a couple of other things that kind of like go under the hood for this also, that we can. Oh, cool. Actually, we can generate a variable source file. Hold on, let me see what that does. Before I do this. Okay. This could be very, very cool. So, we're gonna do this. And now we're going to recompile the script of the project. And now, what is this that we've made? Ooh. Oh, this could be a game changer. This could be a game changer. This could be a game changer. Codes, you're like you're smart or something or whatever. I have a whole rant about intelligence, but the short response to that is I appreciate the compliment, but also it's one of those things where honestly speaking, intelligence, the way that a lot of people measure it and talk about it, is it is not as cut and dry as you do complicated thing, therefore you smart. I appreciate the sentiment, but it's a little more complex than that. How's a game changer? I mean, I understand, but explain it to everyone else who doesn't. So, if I understand what has happened here correctly, I basically was able to generate a script file that just has the immediate access to any of the variables that already exist in my yarn spinner project. So rather than having to like sit down and like write a more complicated or like basically reduplicate certain functions in order to be able to like read and write yarn variables, now I have direct access to the yarn variables and changing their values without having to like write a whole bunch of stuff for a like custom variable storage. Makes my life immensely easier in terms of like, hey, I need to go change a value over in yarn, or I need to like read a value over in yarn and see what its variables are. This makes my life way easier on that front. That's what a smart person would say. SJ Smart, that's cutie. Hi Charlotte, appreciate it. Thank you. But no, seriously, all right, I gotta get on the chair for a second, because I get that you're probably front end, but this is like a thing that like is important to me because I have a thing about this thing. So the simplest way to put it, right, is that people assume that intelligence is specifically about like how many things you know and how well you can regurgitate it, right? And it's not. That's not the way that this works. I will be straight up in saying that quite literally, I had to, in various permutations, basically, insofar as like programming is concerned, I spent probably, if we want to approximate even the time that I spent in undergrad, I'm 30, shit, I forgot how old I am. I'm 33 now, right? I'm 33 now. I didn't start like actually getting a grasp on how to program like even vaguely approaching this level until maybe about 5 years ago, if that. or at least the seeds of that were like maybe 5, 7 years ago. I had a Java class or two in high school. Our teachers were kind of butts. I didn't know what I was doing. I sort of picked up a couple of things. I used to mess around in Mugen, and so I sort of had an idea of what I was doing, but like I literally basically had to learn the way that I look at it and the way I think about it. I basically had to learn how to program 3 times in my life before this started to stick, right? Like literally. There was at least several classes in undergrad, then again in grad school, right? And basically literally it wasn't until I got to grad school that I got to the level of like fundamental understanding of how this programming stuff works in ways that is like I can actually actively do what I'm doing. So I emphasize this to say that it literally has taken me almost, that's 1833. So 18, well, that's being generous. I could even say like 7. So literally almost the back half of my life, from when I was about somewhere between 16 to 17 to now, over that many years and that many exposures to like different permutations of programming stuff, that is literally the only way that I managed to like get to the point where I do this now. Smart has not at all anything to do with like just how fast off the dome you can do stuff. Anything that can be, any skill that you can practice, you can learn. And any skill that you can learn, you can achieve some degree of competency in. It's not just so you program, so you're smart. Like, not necessarily, right? Like, there are a lot of things I can say about programming, but I don't know jack and shit about, like, economics. Not really, right? So, what is smart, what is intelligent is like a whole other, like, it's a very nebulous thing. And there are people who I know who swear up and down that they're not smart enough to understand how to program or whatever, but they've probably forgotten more about cooking. Like, they probably have more things that they know and understand about cooking in their pinky finger than I do in my entire body. Like, it doesn't, like, being smart or whatever really, it's not necessarily about how well you understand complex things, it's about how well you understand something, right? So I'm not saying that kind of just like blows smoke up people's asses, right? I'm not saying this not to take the compliment. I'm just saying I appreciate the compliment, but also, right, a lot of this is just hard work, is what I'm getting at. So I appreciate the compliment. I'm just trying to express that a lot of this is just really hard work, right? And a lot of it is just like a lot of me having to like push my head against this a bunch of times and like suss out how to like get certain things done. So I appreciate the compliment. I'm also just like, I tend to offhandedly reject that. It's like, oh, it's because you're smart. It's like, no, I put a lot of work into understanding how this stuff works. And there's still things that I don't know. That's pretty much all I was trying to get across. I appreciate the compliment, but it's also just one of those things where it's like, for me, I'm very big on it is not just oh, yeah, you're smart. It's more complex than that. I appreciate it, but I also, it's one of those things that by nature I kind of go like, yeah, but there's more to it than that. It's a lot of it is really and truly hard work, and it's really what it is. Hey, Cat Wizard, how you doing? As a great man once said, own your... You're not allowed to turn that... I wasn't not owning it, damn it. I wasn't not owning it. Ah, fuck. That's playing dirty. Anyway. Damn it. Let me go back to the thing I was gushing about. I'm just giving you a hard time. I understand where you're coming from. Yeah, like... The reason why I think about it like that all the time yeah, the concept of smart, at least in the general sense, is also heavily dependent on a cultural framework that is racist and evil. Yeah, there's that too. I could go into a whole other rant about that. Uh, I'm good. Almost Mr. Chief because I'm usually reading right now. Lol. Yeah, I started like about half. I started like 45 minutes late or so because I needed a nap before stream, and then even when I nap, it takes me like a good 15 minutes after the alarm goes off, to, like actually sort myself out enough to wake up. Um, but yeah, um, that's the other thing too, right? Um, TLDR, Gumber, I hope I didn't scare you off. I'm sorry. It's because I used to teach as part of my day job, and so I became very sensitive in certain aspects to like people, either they don't mean it and they're like trying to like pass on a compliment. Like, it's one of those things where I'll hear, wow, you're so smart, with the hidden thing of like, but I'm not. And then it's like, that kind of just like gets my teacher brain going where it's like, it's not about that, right? But I appreciate, what I'm trying to say is I appreciate the compliment. Thank you very much. But also, just to quote Rock Lee, sometimes you just gotta be like, you just gotta be a genius of hard work. I guess quoting my guy actually, but that's neither here nor there. Right. So this yarn variables thing. If this thing has worked out the way that I think it has, damn it, there's an ad. Shoot. I'll wait for the ad to finish. I'm gonna wait for the ad to finish. That rant made me really hungry and a little thirsty. So I'm going to go do the thing. I'm going to just pour a drink, wait for the ads to finish, and then we'll talk about the thing I was talking about, and then we'll get into like actually getting Yarn Spinner to run, because that's important. Okay. Should be coming back from ads now. which is cool. Okay. So, the only way I'm going to be able to actually try out this thing, though, is that we need to get a dialogue view up and running. So, the basic idea behind how Yarn works, right? This is the basic way that a dialogue is set up in Yarn. So I'm gonna try doing it manually, and hopefully I don't like horribly screw this up. No, we don't need metadata, so we need quick load. Okay, so we've got this dialogue running right here, right? Then we need to add a control node, and it's going to be dialogue view text box. I'm gonna just take this one, and we want to spread this along the bottom part of the screen. Layout, custom minimum size. That's a little too much. Okay, cool. Child node, just another node. We want here variables. Then we're going to do quick load. Text label, and we're going to do variable X. I'm building this manually so that y'all can sort of see the parts that go into it, and then if I mess something up, I don't know. Fuck it, we ball. I'll figure it out if I mess something up. I'm gonna do this, and then minimum size of this should be like over here, and then we're gonna go into the UI here. Speed, spinner. Here, the debug text view is going to be this over here, and we'll leave this on just so that we can like be able to see the text as we need to see it. variable storage is this thing. And then I just need to do a dialog view now. So a dialog view, right? So to sort of break this down in terms of how this works, a dialog runner controls what dialogue you should be running it through, right? Like where you go, how you do it. So in our particular case, right, in my level 0 yarn script, I have a node that is called level 0 start, right? So I can say we're going to start on this one and we auto start here. So the dialog runner controls, right, how dialog runs. Subsequently, we need to be able to also designate a dialog view so that we have a place to put the actual like text, have it output somewhere. Actually, I'm going to reprint this new node. We're going to take this one out. Take this and actually expand this out all the way. And this one is down here. Okay, I gotta try to remember how to set this up properly. So, there we go. So we don't want to mess with that. I don't want to mess with that line view stuff. That's fine the way it is. So But basically, we've split this into two parts, right? We have the dialog box here, and then what's going to be the speaker name box up here. I just got to move it a little bit and adjust a couple of things. And now I just need to take layout, transform, scooch this down some. Yeah, that should do for like right now. I should go grab something that I can use to like actually measure out the dialog boxes. So I'm gonna go grab an image real quick that I can use for that, so we can actually see what's going on here. So sprites, folder, Y. Then I'm just gonna go grab sprites, Y. Oh, okay, I did this wrong. We need to change this type. So we're going to change this type to 9 patch rect. So why we've changed this to 9 patch rect is relatively straightforward. We've changed this to a 9 patch rect or a 9 patch rectangle because the idea is that we're going to want this text box to be able to resize and do a lot of like other nice stuff. So by doing it as a 9 patch rectangle, hang on, I gotta remember how to like actually set this up correctly. Yeah, I know it's looking kind of funky. Give me a second. There we go. So, to explain a 9 patch rectangle. Hey, everybody. Who's ready for some art? Everybody is? Alright, let's do it. So, the idea behind a 9 patch rectangle. So let's say this is our text box, right? we want our text box to be able to like resize itself properly, right? I didn't answer, but I am ready. Lol. Yeah. So we want our text box to be able to like resize itself properly, right? So when we resize this text box for like various reasons, right? Whether it's because we want to like fit sometimes like shorter text or like a bigger text bubble, right? If we're not careful, right? If we try to resize the whole thing, then as you saw when I was messing with it, it looks funky and distorted, right? If you just try to squash it and do other stuff normally. So the idea behind a 9-patch rectangle is basically that you define what looks like this, right? The corners aren't approximate or whatever. Everything here along the outside of the 9-patch rect is forced to keep its normal proportions, right? While this part inside is what scales. So let me grab. I'm going to try not to use red and green because that's not. That doesn't help. Okay, I'm just going to try to grab colors that make the most sense here. So blue, the middle part, right? This part will scale freely whenever I resize a 9-patch rect, right? All the other stuff that's not blue does not. It keeps its size and its proportions and everything. And so it is one of those things that with a 9-patch rect, the basic idea behind it is that because of the fact that it does this resizing for you, make sure the shark doesn't have to shout himself out. Hey everybody from Shark Stream. Hi, my name is Sean. Call me that, SJ. I make games and play games. Games make do basically. Shark's one of my mods. She's the best. Yeah. How's Nine Souls going for you is the better question. Because I know Nine Souls is a great game. How's it going for you? I beat the third boss and wandering around now, lol. We take those. Hi, hello, I came in through Shark Raid. Hey, Kettle. Good to see you as always. So yeah, this 9-patch rec that I set up. Hang on. So with this 9-patch rect, right? I know that y'all can't see it because there's Windows shenanigans going on. But basically with the 9-patch rect, the idea of what I'm trying to do here, what I'm setting up right now is basically the same as this. I'm trying to set it up so that the margins that are chosen are locked within a nice little square that sort of like actively represents and accurately represents where the corners all sit. So if I do 60, 60, 60, 60, right? Now, there's something here we go. So, with a 9-patch rect, right? How is the deving of the game? It's going pretty good. we're about to mess with some stuff in Godot for dialogue stuff for viral core busters. So yeah, as y'all can see, right, with a 9 patch rect, when it's set up correctly, right, now I can resize these individual boundaries without the entire sprite distorting. The corners and everything stay where they're supposed to. Like, the corners and everything stay where they're supposed to. And it becomes a lot easier to, like, actually put things in the place where they belong. I should check the project settings and see what size I actually put the window at, because I realized that I didn't actually check that. And now that I fixed it, I'm going to have to adjust a bunch of other stuff. But that's fine. So, line view main. We want to expand that all the way out to here. The dialog box is over here. Here we want to do this like 250. Yeah, 250 should be good enough. And then text box texture and the dialog text, both here. Cool. I'm going to reparent this though to... I'm going to reparent this to a new node. Container. Make sure the margin containers fit all the way out, and then I think it was what? If we look at the 9 patch rect, we knocked everything like 60 pixels in. So for the margin container, we're going to come down to theme overrides, constants, and we're going to just put 60 in on all of these. So the whole point of the margin container is that it will sort of like force in whatever's inside of it. So now, like the dialogue text, right? If we look at it, the dialogue text now fits within this nice little neat box, right? If I want to adjust the bounds upward a little bit, I can do the top and bottom to like 30 and 30, and that gives us a little more here, but it looks like it cuts a little. So I'm gonna put it back on the 60s. Does the margin container scale like if you're on a smaller screen? Yeah. The resizing stuff, I haven't gotten around to doing that yet. The main thing is that I forgot to check what size the window for what size the window was even set to anyway. But it should resize correctly. So I'm gonna change the type of this. This needs to be a 9 patch rect. I didn't know Godot had something automated. As far as like changing window size, you have to code that yourself. Based on an experience that we had with trying to do it for Shoot Lancer, it is best that you start out at the maximum resolution for whatever aspect ratio you're going to target, so that you can scale down more easily. Scaling up from a smaller one presents its own set of problems, right? So as an example, right, for the aspect ratio, right? I've heard the opposite in web dev stuff. Yeah, I mean, you can also, it should also be possible to go upward, but the main thing is that you have to make sure, yeah, in this case, what I mean is that, in this particular case, what I mean is that, Yeah, lots of people scale for mobile. So in this case, right, Viral Core Busters, I'm not like basically we're planning on releasing that on. Right, here's the reason why I'm saying big and then go down. Right, certain values for certain resolutions, right, wind up being half steps if you have to go scale up, but they wind up being cleaner. Like they wind up being cleaner steps if you have to scale down, right? So like, let me make sure I have this right. Calculator. So like, let's say that you start like your base resolution is like 1920 by 1080, right? If you want to get from 1920 by 1080 to like 960 by 540, that's just a clean division of 2 both ways, right? Similarly, for 960 to 540, scaling up to 1920 by 1080 is like a full 2, right? I'm trying to hopefully like my math is not like horribly screwed up, right? But basically, right? So technically speaking, I could scale. What's the word I'm looking for? I'm not trying to make sure that I like actually phrase this correctly, because if I don't do this right, then I just wind up confusing this issue. But basically speaking, jumping between certain aspect ratio sizes, insofar as like resolution stuff, becomes easier if you are working from bigger, because when you do the division, you can divide down more easily than you can multiply up in certain aspects. Like for example, so here's an example, right? I think for Shoot Lancer, there was a point where I did it at like 16:9, right? Like the actual internal resolution is like 1600 by 900, right? That limits to a certain degree which ways I can step up and down, right? Because now stepping up from 16:9, right? So let me do 1920 divided by 16, right? That's like a 1.2 factor, right? So like I have to scale everything up by 20% in order to go from 1600 to 1920, vice versa, right? Granted, right, you can still, it's still true that you have to like multiply down if you're going from 19 to 1920 to like 1600. Obviously, you have to like multiply by like 0.8 or something. But basically, yeah, it's easier to compress than stretch it. Exactly. The general principle, as far as I understand it, and I could be wrong because I know that sometimes math stuff kind of like screws me up when it comes to this sort of thing, right? But the basic lol that we ran into when we were trying to get with with Shoot Lancer is basically that because I didn't put it at like the biggest resolution within the aspect ratio that we intended to support, it makes resizing certain things kind of a pain in the ass in terms of like the way things look when they scale and all that. At least that has been our general experience. It does not necessarily mean that there isn't a way to fix it, but because that's the way that I did it, that's sort of like the corner that I put us in, so to speak, with that. So in this case, with Viral Core Busters, I'm deliberately starting larger so that when it comes down to like, okay, we need to switch to other aspect ratios, it's just scaling down as opposed to trying to like force something smaller to upscale to something bigger. So like I'm starting it at 1920 by 1080, and then we can pretty easily get to 16. We can get to 1280 by 720 with an easy clean 2, 640 by 360 with like another clean easy 4, basically, if we had to. And then like the steps in between are probably going to be at least a little easier to scale down to, even if it's uneven-ish, because we started big, right? But yeah, that makes sense, especially when it comes to images easier to compress and stretch. Yeah. This is also why, ideally, important game dev thing. This is, I think, still partially like an optimization thing, but also just to make your life easier. When possible, right? Obviously, there are like limitations to this or whatever, right? But when possible, try to work and plan your stuff around powers of 2 when it comes to sizes, right? So like if we look at the dialog box, for example, right? The dialog box is 512 pixels by 512 pixels. And that's because, right, being 512 by 512, I can keep cutting that in half without reaching like weird numbers. 920 is the standard to start with. If you are choosing to target 16:9 as an aspect ratio, then that's like HD plus. But most people these days, if you're talking about a computer, obviously it's a little different. I can't speak on for consoles because I haven't done like console resolution stuff before. But for most computers, most people, if they're using a 16:9 resolution, will be using 1920 by 1080. And that's for 16:9 aspect ratios, right? Not a lot of people do like 4:3 very much anymore. Nowadays, mostly we are dealing with like 16:9 resolutions primarily. So yeah, 1920 by 1080 is like the most common one now. So if you're targeting like 720p with a 16:9 aspect ratio, then you're doing a window that's 1280 by 720. If you're targeting 480p on a 16:9, that's 854 by 480. 360p is 640 by 360, right? 768p is 1366 by 1768. So the aspect ratio is just the ratio of how big the width is to the height, and then within that, there are different settings that you can go for, right? So like full HD is 1920 by 1080. 4K UHD is 3840 by 2160. Yeah, anyone doing 4:3 today is doing it on purpose with specific intended reactions. Yes. This is also why with certain video games that are being like ported from older consoles, you may see Chaos Code is an excellent example of this. Chaos Code is like a fighting game that I dabble in on occasion, right? But with Chaos Code, for example, the common practice is to run it at the 4:3 resolution, and then it fills in the extra space with character sidebars that like have listings of their basic moves and stuff like that. If you put it at 16:9, it does weird stuff with where the walls are supposed to be, and it becomes a whole thing. I was thinking about playing around with 4-3 for R-related stuff. Yeah, like, it's still doable, 100%, right? It just mostly means that, like, when you are thinking about, like, what monitor sizes it scales to, right? It may be a thing where it's like, you've got the black bars on the side, and you can decide what you want to do with that. You want to put, like, splash there. You want to just have it still just be those black bars anyway, and just, like, force people to feel like they're, like, narrow boxed in. Whatever you feel is best. But yeah, it's still a viable thing to use. You just have to kind of keep in mind that, like, since if it's like a computer that's going to be used on, computers don't really do like 4:3 as a native, so you can still get a full screen fit, but like you'll see black bars on the side where like it doesn't go all the way out, and you don't want to stretch the image because, like, you know, it won't look good. But yeah, the thing I was saying before, powers of 2 are ideally what you want when you're working with resources in video games, when you're dealing with stuff like sprites and textures and things like that, right? There are things that you want to do, that you want to be very deliberate about with that power of 2 stuff. Like, so for example, with Shoot Lantern, Leona's sprite sheets, the individual cells of each sprite, the thing that I told KT when she was doing that was, hey, so the cell sizes for each sprite need to be a power of 2, right? So 128 by 128, 256 by 256, whatever. So the individual, like, boxes that make up Leona's sprites are at those fixed sizes, because what that then lets us do is, with Godot, when you do that, or like a sprite sheet, for example, you can tell Godot straight up, hey, this image is going to be a sprite sheet that has this many rows and this many columns, and it will divide it cleanly, and done deal, right? Those numbers aren't because computers work. The numbers here, computers don't. Base 12. Computers work off powers of 2, bud. Yeah, like, yeah, you cooked in the wrong direction. There, yes, computers are like, literally, the day that we even managed to get, like, computers that can, like, go up, that, like, compute past base 2, we're gonna be cooking with, like, gas. But no, computers are base 2. When you get down to, like, the nitty gritty of it, computers are base 2. So that's why I am using, like, 512 by 512 is literally like, I don't remember which power it is. It's like 2 to the 1, 2, 4. So 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. So hang on a second, I'll try it before. Damn it. I had a math moment. See, this time it's not my fault. We turned into a math machine, but it's not my fault this time. It's not my fault this time. It's not my fault this time. It's Stubby's fault. So yeah, 512 by 512 is just 2 to the 9th power, right? Is binary math? To a certain degree, yes. But anyway, yeah. So 2 to the 9th power is basically 512 by 512, right? I thought I saw a 2. There, Bender. 2 isn't a real number. That was a good one. Truthfully, in that one. Yeah. Yeah, numbers aren't really can't do this for the Y and truth. Let me see when ads are going to show up. I feel like ads are going to show up at some point in time. I'm not looking at it when it's the last time it happened. 7:50. So, alright, we're doing like another 15 minutes. Okay, let's get like in this. So yeah, the reason why the text box is 512 by 512 is because 512 is a power of 2, which means that when you divide it by 2, it keeps dividing evenly until you get down to like 1 by 1. Very useful for like scaling stuff and very useful for like keeping things together. If you are somebody that does pixel art and uses sprite sheets, although people who are good at binary, what's your secret? Basically, the thing that they don't tell you about binary, I'm going to try to keep this short and simple, right? Basically, spilling, they were born before 1970, that's also true. But, like, the main thing is that anytime, this is the simplest way to look at binary, right? Technically speaking, with the way that base 10 counting works, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Once you hit 9, you roll over and go up in the next column, right? Binary works the same way, except that you stop at 1. So if you count a number and you're like 0, 1, when you count up again, you move over one column, 1, 0. So that's why, like, the value 2 in binary is represented by... Okay, I'm gonna just do it. We're gonna do it again. Guess what time it is? It's time for MS Paint stuff. Okay. So let me just get this. Sorry, SJ, and thank you. You don't have to apologize. It's inevitable. Basically, at this point, it's inevitable. We wind up going over math anyway, and math stuff. So, basically speaking, this isn't something that I figured out until I actually had to teach this for the AP Computer Science Principles exam to my students that I used to teach. So, this is basically the thing that they never told you about that. To be fair, I learned a lot of math and actually retain it on your streams. Then, that's good. Okay, so let's talk about number systems and shit. So, base 10, right? 1, 10, 100. Right? So this is 10 to the 0, 10 to the 1, 10 to the 2, 10 to the 3. So I'm only going to go up to 1,000 because this demonstrates my point pretty clearly, right? And then, you know, so on, right? So basically, right, when we're talking about base 10, when we say base 10, this is the kind of thing that we mean, right? The ones column is 10 to the 0. So you can count 0, 1, 2, blah, 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 up to 9, right? When you hit 9 and you try to put one more in here, it goes, whoa, 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 whoa. We're overspilling now. So this is why it becomes 0, and we move over to that. Then when we start counting from 10 again, right? We go 11, no, I should do it this way. Like 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, right? When it comes to 19 here, over the limit again, 20. So basically we can keep going until we hit a 9 here and a 9 here. But once we've hit a 9 here and a 9 here, 0, 0, 1, right? Now, for base 2, it is literally the same rules, except that your cap for a given column is going to be 1. Once you try to go over 1 in any given column, you push over. So here it's like, so here, right, 2 to the 0 power is 1. 2 to the first power is 2. 2 to the second power is 4. 2 to the third power is 8, right? And then again, and so on from here, right? 2 to the fourth power is 16, blah, blah, blah. So over here, right, with base 2, right, 0, 1, lol, we capped. 3, lol, we capped. So sorry, like this is 3, right? And if you try to put another one in here, lol, we capped, right? And so this becomes 2. Hang on, I'm trying to make. No. Right, the maximum value they can only ever hold in here is a 1. Right. So if at any point when you're putting numbers in, you cap over, you gotta cap over 1, you gotta move over a column. Right? So this is how it works. So let me do that again to make it make sense. So you start counting in base 2, right? 0 is 0. 1 is 1. You try to put another thing in here, you're capped, right? So you have to put the 1 over here, because you have 1, 2, and none of that, right? You put in another number 1 here, it becomes 3, right? 2 and 1 is 3. You try to put 1 in here, can't fit. Numbers can't be bigger than 1. Try to put it over here, can't fit. Numbers can't be bigger than 1, so you gotta step over here and do 0, 0, right? Five here is 101. 6, can't put it over here. You try to put a 1 in here, it gets angry. You have to do it like this. 110. 4, 2 is 6, so on. I should get a refund from school. I learned nothing. Yeah. And hexadecimal, which is base 16, y'all want to really get your minds blown? Hexadecimal codes work the same way. It's just base 16, and you go from 0 to F. I'm about to really blow your minds now. Check this out. So, 16 to the 0 power is 1. 16 to the first power is 16, right? 16 to the second power is, I gotta math that real quick, so I'm gonna fuck it up if I try to remember it right now. 16 2 is 256. There we go. 256, right? And then so on. Right? So, with here, right? So, let's do it like this, right? So, max. So, here, right, the maximum value that you can have in any given box is 9. Here, the maximum value you can have in any box is 2. Here, the maximum value is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. A, B, C, D. Hang on, it's like F is supposed to be the last one, right? So let me see if I do this right. It's supposed to be 0 through 9, and then A through F, right? So that should come out to 16 values if I count this correctly. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Because you shouldn't be able to do 10. A, B, C, D, E, F. Yeah, that's right. So 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Right? When you hit 9 with hexadecimal, then you switch to letters. A, B, C, D, E, F. And you notice that I counted 16 total. Right? So you're dumping numbers. So here, right, we say that the max is F, right? So if you want to be technical even, right, with base 16, if you want to be super technical about it, right, with the way that it works in hexadecimal code, technically speaking, we don't care about the ones column, really. But that's a whole other can of worms, right? Anyway, let me not get too big for my britches here, because I might mess something up here in explaining it. So let me just talk it through like this, right? So you count all the way up to like F here, right? You try to put in something here, that looks like an R. So F, right? You try to put in something here. Once you hit F in this column, it's like, no, can't do that. Gets angry. It goes, no, 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 right? And so you have to put it over. So over here, what happens is that this becomes 0, and this becomes, I want to say, yeah, you count up, right? You start putting in numbers again. This becomes 1F, right? Try to push in again. Doesn't work. This becomes 2, 0, right? So when we're working with hexadecimal, really we only, in most cases I should say, right? In most cases with hexadecimal, we only really care about the ones column and the 16s column, basically. So the values that you see in hexadecimal are really usually only dealing with these two, right? So when you get like F, F, and why that represents white is pretty straightforward, right? The reason why that represents white is because in most RGB value systems, 0 is black and white is 255. So when we express a color as FF, so this is where we get like wow now, right? So let me do it like this: RGB, and each of these has a maximum value of 0 to 255, right? So each of these has a maximum value of 255, right? And hexadecimal is 255. So when you do FF for the red component, FF for the G component, and FF for the blue component, that's the maximum value of each one. And on the additive, in the additive color system, which is what RGB is, where you're adding together all of the values in order to like get the sets that you're doing, that translates out to white. So yeah, we made it just before the ads, but congratulations. This is basically how any kind of base whatever system works. So yeah, whenever you're counting in base 4 or base 5 or whatever, basically speaking, whatever your base is, the maximum value for a given column in that number system is 1 less than your base. So with base 2, your maximum value for a given column is 1. Which I wrote incorrectly over here because I'm a doofus. But yeah, all hex codes really are, in truth, is just base 16. That's pretty much it, right? Um, and so the max value is F, aka we can say 15, basically. The max value is like, or no, that's wrong. It's 16. I can't do that. Well, you get what I mean. The max value is F. Let's just leave it. This command needs to be done every stream. So here's what I'm going to do. Since this was helpful, I'm going to save this and do, let's see. I guess now we have a new thing. I call them SJ sketches, and then I sit down and do whatever it is, and we go from there, right? And you love it, don't forget that step. Yeah. Thank you. So yeah, it was helpful, y'all. I know I'm doing like the aw shucks. I know I'm doing like the aw shucks, the aw shucks face and everything. Insofar as like all of that, but literally it wasn't until at some point when I was trying to like prepare like APCSP exam materials, like I was saying before, that I actually got my brain around like, right, this is really all that it is, right? Like, basically speaking, like base 10 or base whatever, right? If you're coming from an understanding where base 10 is the native, like, number system that you're counting in, once you understand how base 10 is basically just like parallel running to any other like base number counting system, bam, just makes perfect sense. But the thing is that they teach you this in school, but here's the big but. Because of the way that we talk about math a lot of the time, it's obfuscated, right? Because the only thing that you're told more or less to internalize, because, you know, how many fingers do we have, right? So it becomes a convenient way of doing it like that, though people can also like count like joints or whatever, right? But I think that's the origin. I might be wrong. But my point being is that when they talk about this in school, they explain the one, well, okay, when I was in school, I should say, when I was in school, we were explained that there's a ones column, a tens column, a hundreds column, and all that, but they never made any direct link to the reason why they are called these things is because they are powers of 10, right? So once I understood that, like, columns in a given counting system are basically just powers of whatever, that's why. So for anybody who really likes the style, this thing, I saved it. I'm gonna post it in the Guilded. If you're not in the Guilded and you want it and you have me on Discord, you can just like poke me and be like, hey, I want that, and I'll throw it to you. The only thing I'll ask is that like you don't go spreading it on like social media or anything. Not because I care that much, but does that even matter? I'm thinking too hard about this. Sorry. Brain is doing like weird shit about like unattributed work right now, and Brain is just doing brain things about that. It's like free knowledge. It doesn't really matter, I guess. Honestly, the only reason I have good math is off-the-wall teachers' lessons. Traditional math made me think I was bad at it. Yeah. The math curriculum did talk about how base numbers work, but at the time I didn't give a single fuck about math, so it didn't stick until later. Yeah. It's the same thing with me, right? Like, once I realized that if I'd been paying attention in geometry and trig, and to a certain extent physics class, I'd have a lot easier time doing certain things in video games than I do now. I got really annoyed with past me, because I'm like, damn it! We could have been fine. All you had to do was give, like, 20% of his shit, and we would have been good. So I guess one last thing that's related to hex code that's relevant. So, if you ever run into a situation where you see a certain thing represented with like 8 hex letters instead of 6 for color, right? Usually the last 2 control the transparency. Like, so here, right? So here, case in point, right? Like, hexadecimal, FF. Technically speaking, you could do another set of Fs after this to then determine the transparency, right? So if you see, to demonstrate this point, right? I could do 00FFFF, and it turns that color, right? Because I've drained all the red out of it. If we had another set of if we had another hexadecimal set here, which would have been like another pair of like zeros or another pair of Fs, we could control the transparency that way. See? Like this. And you see as I'm pulling this up, right? It counts, or if I do it like this even, right? 7 zeros, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, A, B, C, D, E, F rolls, right? Exactly the way that I described it over there. But that's the whole thing. Anyway, let me not get too deep into that because we'll be here again literally all day. Uh, do other languages also use? Yes. Hex code as a universal standard uses 0 through 9 and then the letters A through F. It does not change in other languages. This so that doesn't cause shenaniganry. We're gonna put this continue button here, and then we just need to okay, cool. And then just leave this over some so that we can like keep it right here. All right, cool. And then over here, continue button is this one. Okay, so why have I gone to all this trouble, right? Oh, right, I need to do reparent a new node. This needs to be a margin container, and then I need to do margin container needs to be spread out here. We go to the theme overrides, constants, and we just do 60 on all sides to make sure that this thing fits inside of the actual text box with the speaker name, and it's not all off the wild where it doesn't need to be. And then for the actual text here, for now I'm just going to cheat, and ideally what you should do this with in Godot is something called a theme. So a theme in Godot is basically a file that lets you define the way that like a HUD element should look. In this case, I'm just playing it dirty and just having the text and stuff I'm just like manually setting certain theme things. But at some point when I have time, I'm going to like properly do an actual override of it and do it that way. Anyway, let's put in some filler text here. Lauren Ipsum Nick Mipsum. And probably what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to want the dialogue box itself to be a bit larger so that I can afford to, we're going to do this. And this is why I went to all the trouble of like setting up like the dialogue box and the speaker name box and a lot of the other stuff the way that I did. It's so that I can very easily like move and resize things as I need to. Damn it. And now for the margin container for this, right? I can afford now to take them. Hang on a second. So I can do an even 60 in, and then I can take the margin container itself and just pull it up so that we don't like cut past this part. But now it should stay within the bounds anyway. Okay. So we don't have a line provider, but that's fine. I'm going to turn auto start off, and here's what we're going to do. We're going to add... We're going to now take... So the reason why we did a separate scene for the dialogue runner is because we want it to be able to like do the stuff that it needs to do over here. Then we're going to turn on editable children so that we can see all of this. Line view main we're going to initially turn off so that we can leave that hidden. And now for the test level, this is like the last thing that we're going to try to do before we get going here. So in the level manager, okay. Oh, wait a minute. I can literally just... better to do it this way, because then I can control this a little easier. Actually, what I should do is, HUD should have it. Thanks, Debbie. Oh, right, I need to do this. Okay, maybe this will work. Oh, did I do a silly and not put it in the... No, okay, no, I did it. I just didn't do this. Alright. Alright. Dang, I thought it would work. You almost got there. Oh, right, we never did the emit signal. Did I? My bad, that's why that doesn't work. I didn't do the emit signal. So basically, to simply explain the thing that I was doing here, the emit signal that I'm talking about is that a nice thing about Godot is that you can set up signals of your own that basically emit or like transmit that something has happened once something has happened, right? So what I forgot to do here is hang on a second, I gotta remember to do emit signal. What's the proper? There we go. Dot player instantiated. So we've done that, and now the only other thing I need to do is let's see, HUD script dot instance dot yon dialog dot. Or better yet, hold on. Let me see if I can do this way now. Hold on. Hold on. Chotto matte. Okay. Then we want to do so this is the thing that I was really excited about, right? Now all I need to do in order to be able to like change the character name in the yarn script is literally to do this, right? I just have to get a hold of the variable storage for the yarn dialog, and I can immediately just access and change. I can immediately access and change it that way. I have no idea if this is going to work correctly. Yeah, all right. All right. We might be cooking, y'all. So, this is going to break a little bit because I haven't it's gonna break a little bit because I haven't wired up all of the stuff from the previous dialogue yet. But that's fine. I just need to make sure that I don't mess with any other functions, and it should be okay, I think. All right. Moment of truth. Dang it. Something broke. Let's see. We're almost there. We're almost there, but not quite. There are a couple extra steps that I gotta take for it, but it's gonna involve getting into more stuff than I can reasonably figure out right this second. I'm pretty sure I know what the issues might be, but I gotta dig deeper, and we are basically at time. So it mostly works. It almost works. I will probably wind up banging away at it a little bit more off stream, just to kind of like get it back in shape, and I'll show y'all what we've got next time. But that's like most of it done. So, thank y'all for coming by. I deeply appreciate it. I'm gonna find somewhere to leave y'all to hang out. I'm gonna throw down the usual stuff, links. I write articles and stuff over on NeoCities. I'll probably do a write-up for after a little more time for Street Fighter. And it may add in other like game dev writing stuff there eventually. That's the plan. Stream VODs are up on my YouTube. Ko-Fi, you want to support me in the stream but don't want to give money to Amazon. Ko-Fi sub is much preferred because I keep most of that. Drone, you can do anonymous gifting there for stuff for stream or otherwise. And my card has my other social media links. I'm primarily on Blue Sky these days. If you don't mind making a Roblox account and you want to hang out with us when we're not doing stuff, you can join the Guilded with that link over there. And then, if you want to know more about the game studio that I helped co-found, Munity, we have a website, we have a Patreon, and you can play the Pay What You Want demo of our first game, Shoot Lancer, for Windows, Mac, and Linux at that link over there. Thank y'all for coming by. Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, Street Fighter 6, Mai Shiranui. We're going to get into it. Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time is, we start the first half, I think, of what's going to be the end of SMT Nocturne. We're going to go, like, as far up as I can in the last dungeon to, like, get the thing I'm looking for. I have to clear a couple boss fights on the way, and then come back down, do last preparations, and ideally by stream after this upcoming Sunday. So, like, not this upcoming Sunday, but the Sunday after should be the last Nocturne. Next Wednesday, probably more game dev stuff. Probably going to be Flower Core Busters with the dialogue system working and everything. So, thank y'all for coming by. Deeply appreciate it. Stay safe, wash your hands, wear a mask, don't go outside if you don't have to. Be a citizen. But not to bigots, racists, terrorists, sexists, anti-queer folks, or fascists. Black Lives Matter. Trans rights to human rights. Reproductive rights to human rights. Or science. Right. So, Black Lives Matter. Trans rights to human rights. Reproductive rights to human rights. Palestine, the Sudan, the Congo, New Caledonia. Hey, let's all be free. None of us are free to war off. It's just what it is, right? So, I appreciate y'all. I'm gonna find us somebody to go hanging out with. Y'all already know it's gonna be somebody black, because, you know, it is what it be. Yeah, let's go hang out with Data Dave. Data Dave is currently playing Poppy Playtime Chapter 4. Given that he said I'll be a brave Dave, I'm going to assume that's also like a horror game. So if that's not your jam, feel free to like dip out. But the raid message is as follows. SJH just raids. It's the raid message. Throw in your favorite emotes. They don't feed my emotes. Whatever emotes you like. If horror is not your thing, then you don't have to stick around. But whether I see you on Sunday or some other day, take care. Be safe. Deuces.